What is going on, everybody? Thank you all for stopping in. My name is Matt. I play games as the Cutter. Thank you for stopping in on the Thursday show. Last night we announced that next week on this show we are going to have Silent Al, Alex Sarkeesian, joining us. So look forward to that. I hope everyone enjoyed last week's show with Dusto. Tonight, however, joining me, you know him as several things. You know him as your current, I say current, lifetime leaderboard number one. You know him as a extremely active community member and streamer. You know him as the leader of Dodgeball. I think. We'll talk about the origins there tonight. And you know him as a super nice guy, Bryistupid, Brian Machin. How are you tonight?
I'm great, Matt. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I knew when I kind of put this program together that you would definitely be on the show, or I would be asking you at some point. And thank you for coming on.
Of course. Can't believe I made it in the second wave, though. I thought I'd be fourth, fifth.
Can you believe we're in the fifth week already?
I know, right?
So before we kind of get into things, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I think Brian's looking at chat, and Brian, this show doesn't look much at chat. I think there's a good chance.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So tell us about yourself. Tell us about you, your family, and what you do, where you're at.
I am a Florida cracker, born and raised here, one of the rare ones. And I work at a brewery. The brewery's amazing. I've got Simply Steph as my lovely wife, and we have two darling puppers whom you will hear many times throughout the evening chomping on bones, I'm sure, or dropping them on the floor. But yeah, that's it. That's all I do. I'm here. I'm the typical Florida man.
Well, we are going to get, of course, into some star rounds. And Brian, in fact, sent me a challenge already. And we're going to take a look at it. Looks like we're going to be doing some unicorn hunting. Is that correct?
I don't see any reason not to.
All right, wonderful. So we'll get into that. What is tough here, where some past guests and I have gotten kind of lost because we can kind of play on autopilot here. In missions, it is not as easy to do so.
Sure it is.
Of course,
I believe in you. I believe in you.
Why is my screen being funky? Oh, that's why. Okay. So again, we probably will talk a lot about missions tonight. But before we do, I do want to know a little bit, there are some things. You're so active. When I sort of came back into the community, I already accepted you as a top player. But I didn't realize when I met you at Origins last year quite how active and positive you really are in the community. And that's, something I in particular am sensitive to. And lately that community angle really has been pushing the stream activity that's been going on. We've got such an exciting community kind of push right now with the streaming. And it looks like you're going to secure a spot. You want to tell us about that?
First off, the community's all because of you, and the community's the only reason I've played this game for as long as I have. We definitely have the best community. So thanks for that, although I'm not sure Steph would actually thank you for forcing me to play this game this much.
I know.
But yeah, it's been amazing to see how many people have jumped into the streaming aspect of it. We went a long time with one person doing it, and now, we were at a point almost where we were getting it 5-6 days a week from different people. So I'm glad that you have a set schedule for it. The rest of us seem to kind of just jump on whenever. I'm hoping to set my schedule. I'm hoping to solidify my Saturday morning breakfast stream, um, and then pick a few other days and just commit to them.
Yeah, I've enjoyed. I woke up the last couple Saturdays to find you streaming, so I kind of pop in as I just kind of get my day going. It was an unexpected time slot, but I think it's actually kind of a nice one. Just kind of getting your day going. I feel like it's going to kind of be my adult Saturday morning cartoons.
That's kind of what I wanted, just a time for people to pop in, hang out for a little bit, and then go do whatever with their day. And it's underutilized. Obviously, no one else was doing it, so hopefully we can keep that up.
Okay, so with Brian and I having a real focus on missions, that is what we are playing here with the unicorn. So that's obviously what we're going to be searching for. Let's just say we don't end up getting wins during the first 3 turns. Do we want to leave it open to damage wins, or would you like to play where we can only win by missions?
Oh no, we can win traditionally. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, okay. Thought I'd give you the option here as the guest of honor. And I'm just, you can see. I don't know if you have. I assume you have the stream on. My missions. I'm sitting on.
I don't. So if you don't want to tell me, you don't
Oh,
have to.
okay. Let's do that. Let's do that then. The chat, who I can't see, is also privy, of course, to my missions.
Yeah, chat. No spoilies.
Okay, so let me take a look here consciously for a sec, and then we'll get back to you. It is weird doing this on stream, man, because, again, normally I'm really devoting my attention to the talk. So to suddenly have to throw my mind entirely back into, okay, how am I going to secure and throw these together?
Well, while you're thinking about your missions, I will talk about these gambits in both of our missions. None of our gambits, with the exception of my glorious return, which is amazing for missions, really contribute much in this format. They're not the gambits you want to see. Surprise assault is useful only if you have diversify, because it allows you to focus on trade and healing, and you can pick up that damage anytime. But I mean, other than that, Gray Market's okay. Obviously, Frontier Fleet is garbage. So yeah, we kind of got an interesting gambit set up for this first game. Not good for unicorns, at least.
Now, Brian's, dismay at the Frontier Fleet is one of the key things I picked up on when watching his stream on how he was approaching missions, because effectively it's a double whammy. Not only is this not the outright cheat that some of the gambits are, so he does not get his sort of free completion. He knows that his opponent has better ones. I mean, it's starting from a real down position.
Yeah, I think it's important when gambits are involved with missions to sort of make that plan early. This gambit, I expect to get this mission, and kind of stick to that as a thing, because it's easy to get distracted and see you can complete a mission, and maybe it's not the best option to do it. You might have a better use.
Wormhole. So I did reference earlier that I was fortunate to meet Bryan and Steph at last year's Origins, and we had a very nice time. So much so that I, of course, was super bummed out when we lost out on being able to go again. Were you planning on attending that this year, Bryan?
Absolutely, we were. We had a place booked. We had everything set up, and then And then the world kind of paused for a moment, and everything shut down. Speaking of diversify and surprise assault, but yeah, we had everything ready to go. I was very excited about it.
And as referenced several times in chat on my stream, during last year's Origins, Brian and I had an incredibly fun and memorable cash match.
I mean, you say memorable, but I don't remember much from that night other than I left with your money.
There was some consumption going on that night. That is true. Sorry, this has taken me a little bit because I really want to do something with that Morris, but there's just nothing at this point. You know what?
You got a whole lot of trade and not a lot of options.
We're just
Look
gonna
at you,
crack
gobble it up.
Go crazy. Oh, so one of the things we're going to talk about later in evaluation changes is this beacon. Even though I may have no interest in it, in missions, you have to take it off the row because if it doesn't complete your missions, there is a high statistical probability that it's going to help with your opponents.
Yeah, if you don't have a mission it helps with, it's almost impossible for them not to.
Okay. So I do think it's fun that here, the timing wise on this, the Colossus just hit the app, and one of Brian's favorite stories, because he tells it in chat a lot, is a third turn scoop to my purchase of a physical Colossus during that cash match. And while Brian did take the match, that was a fun moment. We did have a little bit of an audience around us.
The important thing I think to note about that moment especially is this was a best of 3 we were playing, and we were playing with missions. So it's not like one bomb is necessarily game winning with the alternate win condition. But I wasn't going to play against that Colossus.
Now, at the time, I didn't realize Bryan was playing missions the way that he was. So entering into that with missions was a gamble by itself.
I see what you did there, a gamble.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess a double. Even more so.
That was a fun night. That was during the party that White Wizard Games set up for everyone.
Yes, that should be said. I said there was lots of consumption. Much of that consumption was on the team, on White Wizard Games. They threw a very nice appreciation party for us. Secured a whole bar for the night, very close to the convention. That could not have been cheap.
Yeah, literally across the street. I'm gonna be honest, for as much as I talk about going into these missions with a plan, I don't have much of one in this game right now, it seems.
Yeah, when you're searching for your missions and they don't seem to be coming together, if you look at your deck from a traditional perspective, it looks like a hot pile of garbage. Oftentimes.
It certainly can, for sure. I'm just glad this time, though, people can't see my side of it to know these mistakes I'm struggling with.
Card to set aside. Let's just set that aside.
So it was funny on your stream last night, actually. One of y'all set aside the assimilator with patience rewarded. And We never use patience rewarded when we play with the real cards. I've taken it out, and Assimilator just got destroyed. I don't even have that card.
So that's funny. That's funny. You guys have self-censored some very specific cards out of the play deck. Can you tell us a few more and your rationale on that?
That that's it as far as I know that we specifically avoid. Patience rewarded, the few times it came up when we were doing it, just seemed really dumb. It still kind of does, but now that I've gotten to play a bunch of games with it, it's less that way. And it could be just because we were playing with smaller decks that had better cards in them, like more concentrated formats. Um, that there was always one person was getting something amazing, the other person was getting trash. And certainly that happens in the app too. But one of the things that I talk about this game that some people struggle with is the games are you got to play for the long game, like the multiple games. You're making a lot of small decisions and hoping to push tiny edges to get an advantage. And some games you just can't win. Some games you literally can't lose. So it's all those middle games that add up to where you can push your advantage and get a better win percentage. And so maybe it's wrong for me to take that card out because of a couple bad experiences, when in the long run, it might all even out and give the better player an advantage. But we just didn't enjoy using it to begin with, so it got removed. And then I just don't like, as far as the assimilator, the just that mechanic of removing something from your opponent that they worked for. I know you have to give up something for it. I mean, I know there's plenty of um, it's not like you get it for free, right? But I don't know. It doesn't feel like something I want out of the game, which that's the beauty of this game. You can play with or without anything you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A big strong point. We've said that from day one. Now, what's interesting about that card in particular, it's kind of a novelty. It was sort of added in by the team. That was one of the three that they sort of gave, and the name of the card itself. I mean, they sort of offered that after a little bit of a delay on their Kickstarter delivery that round. But I don't think that card was initially intended uh, for to be part of that that pack. So it is interesting. I mean, it does. It sort of breaks the rules of the traditional game. And it is surprising to me, though, that I think of all the other possible swingy and polarizing cards, and that's just not one I really expected to hear was not being played with, but I do totally get it.
Yeah, and as it turns out, after getting to use, I mean, so the app obviously gives you the ability to play so many more iterations of games that you realize some things that seem really bad maybe aren't, and some things that seem really, it balances out a little better. So after playing with it a bunch, maybe it's really not that bad of a card. I mean, its ally ability is hardly used because that 8 damage or 5 trade and scrap is so good that not only do you have to run into someone having something in their discard pile that you want, but you have to like want to get rid of that advantage, that card, to do it. So it might not be as crazy as I originally thought it was.
Yeah. Assimilator, I think that invokes a little more salt. Although I think you're right. I think the amount of salt for compared to the proportionate number of uses that ability is going to actually get, uh, yeah, it I'm not sure how often that assimilator is going to get used either.
So as much as I think I'm known as someone that prefers formats that include chaos. So as much as I like winning by fishing for events or heroes, to me this recon mission event, when you're just 1 or 2 damage short, is my favorite way to steal a game.
With the Explorer damage. Good game, Brian. So before we actually start the next game, let me put a little bit of framework to our missions discussion. I do want to sort of throw a little bit of thought out there that I have been doing. Oops. Because me and Brian are going to talk a lot about missions tonight, but I want to be clear. We are not trying to talk you necessarily into playing missions. We want you to understand what their capabilities are and where you fit in the context of how to use them. And Brian has been very vocal. Brian will tell you to play missions. He'll tell you to play to your missions at all times, even if you're not planning on going for the missions win. And it's hard sometimes, though, to contextualize that. There's a lot of reasons people say, well, missions are great, but what I've kind of done to help me understand where I fit in and what Brian has been doing is I realized that people kind of fit into several different camps. I sort of look at camp 1 as people who are generally near oblivious to the fact they're playing with missions. They like playing with all the cards. They might look at them. They're aware they're there. But the thought of playing towards them as a win really isn't there. It is very much just that, an alternative win condition. And that's really it. When we kind of get into Camp 2, we get to people that are very aware of what the missions are and that they're playing with them. And that they might actually, look to complete 1 or 2, but this still is, at its core, a damage race. And for them, there is an alternative win condition out there that may occasionally come into play and end a game early. There's chaos that is affecting the pace of the game, but it's effective. We have to sort of be weary of it. And these are people that can occasionally stumble across an opportunity to get a missions win, but it's not the goal. When we get over into Camp 3, we get to people who very much understand and respect the power of missions, and they can assess what they're going to sort of do at the start of the game. And they will sometimes understand that they have a shorter path by going missions, but they will also understand that you do have to sometimes lean on the fact that this is a damage race. The third camp is interesting because here, if you're an inexperienced player, going for both might be detrimental, but here the people that are really, really good, this is probably your top players. And for the sake of this discussion, I'm going to portray Brian to be 1 slot over with me right now in the 4th camp, but really this is where Brian actually resides. As an extremely experienced player, he can pivot. He recognizes how to pivot, when to pivot. We'll get into that a little bit more. But all the way over in Camp 4, this is where it's interesting because it's a different game. Here we sort of cease to see missions as an alternative win condition, and instead we accept the game as one with asymmetric win conditions. And here, I'm deciding quite simply that I am playing for the mission's victory from the start, and I understand that there's going to be chaos and things occurring, but I am lying in wait for those things. Chaos, events, heroes, and also the knowledge of being aware of when my mission completions are going to happen. All of those things favor the missions player far more than the damage player. Here I understand that in the background there is something that's going on. It's damage. It's a damage race that my opponent is playing, And sometimes it's going to come into play and end the game early in either favor. But from this perspective, this is slightly where me and Bryan are doing things a tiny bit different. Bryan is looking for the win in the first three turns. I am instead, because Matt won't shut up, that's why. I am instead looking at.
Everyone can hear you.
I know.
I'm looking at. Bryan wants to win on turn 3. I'm recognizing that if I can actually simply win on my turn 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, that is still faster than most damage races. We're gonna let Bryan talk now. How is that breakdown of kind of what your findings were on your missions research?
I mean, that's amazing, actually. Yeah, that nailed it perfectly. I do want to circle back to what you started with about not trying to convince people to play something they don't want to play. So I think that's a good caveat. When I talk about missions, when I preach about missions, it's not because I want you to play a game you don't like. Like, if it changes the game in a way that makes it not fun for you, that's the beauty of Star Realms. Play it how you want. But what bothers me is when they get dismissed, the skill that it takes to use some things gets dismissed from lack of understanding or desire to include them. And so sometimes I get angry with my with my preaching about them because of the way they get talked about. But yes, your breakdown of the players and the styles is quite spot on there. And I do fall squarely in the I am solely focused on winning by missions, and if something else happens, then that's the way it is. I'm going to lose games because cards don't come up on the road, because my opponent gets all the cards they need immediately, I don't get what I need, vice versa, whatever. There are games that's going to happen. That happens in traditional Star Realms anyway. Mm-hmm. So this just gives me more ways to affect that inherent luck in the game and give myself an advantage.
Yeah, I think what we come across, and I certainly felt them. I mean, I did not become inspired about missions until I came in and watched your stream about a month ago. And I think there are objections that people have, sort of mental blocks, and they're valid. You know, I think when you look at your missions, you're perceiving that you have to manufacture these conditions. But I think what you find when doing this and playing it, especially when you add in the chaos, is that it really isn't that different. Like you said, this is still a deck builder. We are still going through the process of purchasing off the row, and we are still subject to the shuffle. We want to still pair our cards just like we do in a damage race. It's just that instead of trying to pair together perhaps factions, almost like suits, we've got very specific pairings. So now we're subject to the same limitations, and ultimately we want to do the same thing. It's just we have to do it in a little bit different order and be very specific. It's still a race, though. We can't lose sight of that.
This is true. It is very much that, and that's fun to me, the race part. I definitely, when missions first were introduced, the concept of them was not on board. Like, it sounded dumb. It really did. But, and I don't know if this is a good time to talk about my origin with missions, but I did at some point dive into them and play a lot of them and sort of got hooked. And maybe they just came at the right time when I wasn't having as much fun just grinding levels anymore or playing tournaments or whatever, and this was a new way to play that was exciting to me. Then that could have been a thing. But I dove into them and have very much found a way I like to play.
And that's what I recognized. I too sort of understood their fun, and I've heard you talk, because I heard you you were very willing to talk about it even in person at Origins. So you've been doing this for a while. Um, so what I saw, I saw that you were willing to talk. I saw that you obviously have had some success with them. Bryan is, as we sort of said in the intro, the clear number one. It's not close. Um, that of course being by level. Bryan, who would you put up there that you might say could be a number one? Perhaps merit wise, skill wise. Who do you respect with you in that category? Give me two or three.
To me, the best player is Kincaid.
Yeah, yeah. Oh.
I don't think that shocks anyone. I think that's an easy answer. He is able to just seem to have all of the right things at the right times and leave you feeling like you don't know what happened in the game. All of a sudden, he's suffocated you and you've lost this long drawn out battle. And then, there's been Corey Bear's a player who has actually started to shoot up the level leaderboard and has started to really embrace chaos and even unicorn formats. And they're a scary player to play against because of that. It seems that people that are more willing to play these kinds of formats can do a lot of other things well too.
Yeah, I thought from playing Kincaid recently that he was very on board with missions. Come to find out, he's still just starting to look at taking them seriously, but he's already very, very good at them.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot. Actually, on my last couple Saturday morning streams, he's been there, and we've been talking a lot about missions and playing a lot of games, partially because he's been forced to play them with joining Dodgeball. And maybe I that might be all of it actually. Maybe that's the only reason he even got into it. But I think he's kind of a student of the game, so it seems reasonable to assume he would eventually want to know how to do everything better.
So, like I said, establishing that, I saw that Bryan has been confident enough to vocalize. I saw that he has seriously just dominated the queue. That told me that he put the time in. My success, I've had a real good push. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit, but I can sort of owe that to the fact that I was able to see through Bryan's stream that he has done the work that establishes that this is something you can do with consistency. I had my screen up there showing 65% for the week. This month has been insane. I've been up between 65 and 70% for most of the month in about 1,000 games or so. I mean, I it just turned it on like a switch. So that says Bryan has done this research. I would love, and I'm sure that the viewers would love to hear a little bit about that process and how you labored through discovering and dominating missions.
So honestly, I have to, like most creative things that come up in our community, I owe a lot to Cranky Day's creativity. When missions came out, he came up with this idea that we would essentially sort of build a ladder, like level up in formats, always including missions, and I'll try and explain it better in a second, and see how far we could run with them. So we would start with vanilla was our first core set. So we started with vanilla. So we played vanilla and missions and one expansion. And as we played a game with each one, and anyone that we won in, then we would start combining them to a piece. So if we won with Gambits, Bases, Events, then all of a sudden we would play with Gambits, Bases, and then Bases, Events, and Gambits, Events. And we would just keep building that up until we got bigger and bigger formats. So I wasn't playing anything close to like Unicorn to begin with because we were going through this. And then we eventually did it with Colony Wars a little bit, and we did it with Frontiers a little bit. And it it was a way for me to play a lot of games in missions, but also with a lot of different cards mixed in, like not just the same sets. Eventually, we started. Someone in the group post or asked a question about winning on your third turn or something like that. I don't remember how it came about actually, and so we sort of tried to theory craft a format that would make that the most possible. And that's where Unicorn came from. So I started playing that and having kind of ridiculous success in that format. So I'm a lifetime 62.5% player. And all of a sudden, playing these Unicorn games, I was winning at 70% consistently. And first 1,000 games, I ended up at 70%. And then played another 1,000, at like 68%. So I was playing a lot of games and having a lot of success, and that's kind of what pushed my love for the missions.
So, in between the time where you sort of started the feeling them out set by set, and the time where you guys said, okay, we can do this very, very early. Let's unicorn hunt. How much time had you put in, you and Cranky, doing that sort of data crunch?
I can tell you a little more exactly.
Kept records.
So let's see. I played Vanilla. I wasn't as good at. I only ended up playing 114 games. Colony Wars I did a little better at. I ended up playing 260 games. And then Frontiers another 120 games. So almost 500 games of mixy-matchy formats with them, I think. Maybe Frontiers came a little after Unicorn was a thing, so it was a few hundred games before we started moving to the Unicorn front.
Okay, and then obviously you guys spent some time there. So how many? We're talking a couple months, a few months over the course of this entire time, you think?
Maybe. I mean, I play a lot of games, so getting through a few hundred games doesn't take.
It's like 20 minutes.
I'm actually at this point in time in my Star Realms playing too. I had switched to almost exclusively real-time games, so I was playing little to no 48-hour games at this point. So I'm getting through these all real-time. It was amazing to me that he was doing it in 48-hour games and doing as well as he was.
And I'm doing really both. I'm comboing. I'm keeping 40 to 50 real time. I'm sorry, keeping 40 to 50 async, and then I have another. If I've got time, I'll just throw a real time up. So with that framework and sort of context, circling back to how we sort of started or kind of got into missions, some of those reasons people sort of don't want to play them. We talked about you look at your missions initially and you think, okay, these don't work well together. I don't see on the row a good start. One of the things that I discovered, and certainly you did too in your process there with the chaos, is that oftentimes you can rely on the chaos itself to complete one for you, which means you can sort of start working on the other two. And whereas again, unicorns are nice. I don't have one. I'm pounding missions games and I got none. While they're nice, what I've started sort of realizing is let's take those first 3 turns and try to see if we can get started, make the purchases, be on the way towards working at 2 of them. If I can do that, there's a real good chance that the chaos or my gambits are going to complete the third for me. I don't need to win by third turn. Again, if I can simply stage this to complete turns 4, 5, 6, 7, all of these are just statistically probability fast. The probability is that they're going to be faster than damage win. And sure, you're going to run into some people that are playing their missions, and you're going to lose to some of those. And I don't know about you, but I find as much as I love here now playing with them and winning with them, I hate losing to missions. For a brief second.
I agree. It just depends on when they come about. It's just my least favorite is when they get two immediately and they wait long enough for you to catch up to get their third.
And then they maybe don't even work for it. It is the chaos that gives it to them. The one that's getting me lately that just feels dirty is that wormhole out of nowhere that just completes it.
Yep. The worst part about the wormhole is when you flip it on your turn and you are about to, they need this base and you're going to kill it, but you also know they're just going to get it back on that wormhole when it's their turn. That's one of the app things. Obviously that wouldn't happen in paper, but it's an app thing that is frustrating.
Okay, so now that we did kind of get that on the table, we are going to resume our play. And we will, of course, keep talking as we go. Peeking at mine.
I assume you don't play like the PGL or Nebula Minor League, do you?
Incidentally, I won season 2 of PGL.
Well, I mean now, though. Now. I know you did before.
Correct. I have not played PGL since. It was great. It was a lot. I mean, especially at the time. We're a little more accustomed now to very intensive formats. I'm going to ask you about Dodgeball in a little bit. But at the time, that was the one that was so many games and so many months.
I only asked because I saw a post in the Nebula Minor League. They made essentially a minor league for PGL, and it has no divisions that will include missions for this season, which is sad. I mean, but I can't make everyone understand.
Well, it is interesting because now that we explained it, as for some, a truly different game. Like we said, it when you can stop looking at it as an alternative win and realize that some people are playing for it as an asymmetric win. You had, obviously you guys had to make that decision for Dodgeball. We only use it on the run-up. Nobody can use it as their home format. So I know you understand the decision that they made. How was it different for you with your event?
For Dodgeball, I think the missions being part of races was Morgan's part of Dodgeball. Morgan actually did conceptualize the Dodgeball format. He there was an event somebody ran, Ace Geiger. It was a zombie apocalypse themed event, and essentially how much you won by determined whether or not you killed a zombie or got bit by a zombie and turned in, and switched teams, actually became a zombie. And so Morgan kind of took that concept and made a team sport out of it. And Dodgeball was kind of the perfect theme for that. And as we all know he also came up with endurance way back when, which has always used all the sets. So I think that being a part of the race is natural for the way he plays. You know, he wants to use everything. For me, I think it feels like a race at that point, and that's why I thought it was perfect. Like now, when you have that initial rush to the ball, when you include missions in the game, it feels more like a race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I of course do credit, I think, you more for the dodgeball thing, but very much Morgan is sort of the creator of the endurance genre.
Yeah, the whole concept of differential mattering.
So I'm not at all. I am surprised because I hadn't heard his name mentioned in dodgeball before, but I'm not surprised to find out that he sort of helped come up with. So let's actually talk about that. How did dodgeball itself come into existence? You want to tell us about what was that? You want to plug the beer?
Well, I could plug the beer. It's
Yeah.
called Sexy Tractor, actually. It's from the brewery I work at, RK Nailworks. It's a delicious double dry hop New England double IPA. But Jennifer was yelling at me, so I had to show it to her.
I'll ask you.
I'm sorry, I missed the initial question there.
I brought up Morgan. Oh. So yeah. So give us the actual origins. You know, I step away. You know, I was always playing, but I was more in Epic. I really wasn't involved in active community tournaments and whatnot for a couple years. I come back in and we're in Dodgeball season 4, and then I watch this draft and it's insane. I had no idea to the level you guys were at on the production and everything involved here. And I go, wow, I had no idea this was all going on. Where did it start? How did it come about?
So, so Morgan created this concept and created a group, and I think he always wanted some sort of league situation, but was definitely beyond. He didn't have any desire to run something, and we kind of floundered around in the group for a little bit, beta testing the concept of dodgeball, the format itself, to see if it even worked, you know, and how best to make it work. And played some pickup games. Didn't have tons of action. It wasn't quite catching on the same way. And then, I know I say this a lot, but it is a cranky day thing. He finally just dove in and said, "We're just gonna make a league. You know, it's happening." And that's kind of where we ended up. Sorry, I gotta think about what I want to do here.
You bet. And on that, you know, that I want to point out where I had been on general autopilot at this point for tens of thousands of games. Bryan mentioned that missions is a whole different way to look at Star Realms. And what it means is, yeah, my ability to suddenly rock out 10 or 12 turns in a few minutes just to kind of get through them is not the same. You have to think about every single decision, every single play. You cannot miss the tricks that are involved in potentially setting up your missions. Those topping tricks and opportunities that you see and sometimes might miss in damage just hurt you a lot more when a mission completion is dependent on it.
Oh, don't I know it? But yeah, so finally he just said, we're gonna dive in and do it. We've done pickup games. At this point, we had done a few backs, had hosted a couple live matches, Dodgeball lives on his stream. So we kind of had a core group of players that would play, and we were like, we'll pick the most experienced ones, we'll make them captains, we'll just have people sign up, and we'll go. And obviously the people that signed up as the first captains were ones that had been on these live streams playing dodgeball matches and stuff, so they had a lot of experience, and we did a live draft, and it was fun. I mean, part of dodgeball is that good game.
It's not a unicorn, but it's the fourth turn. It's real close.
It's pretty close. A lot of your memories from dodgeball are as a kid in the schoolyard. You know, you just draft teams, you know, playground pick and stuff. But so these drafts were fun, and the league kind of worked, and we expanded teams, and you know, during all of this too, he's created a few extra things to kind of put in an off season to give us some breaks between the seasons, so they feel like they mean a little bit more. No offense to like other leagues and stuff, but for me, the most prestigious ones like PGL, Endurance always has been. They take longer, and they aren't necessarily back to back to back. Although Endurance, Rick is so on top of Endurance now, it's becoming back to back to back. But because they aren't always running, it feels like it means more when you win. Like the Board Game Geek tiered league, you know, that's fun, but I don't feel any better winning a division or losing a division in that, because there's a season that starts immediately afterwards. So being able to, now we have a community where like we play our season, we have events in the off season, people run pickup games, we have a few sanctioned events, and then we have another season, and everyone gets hyped up for that draft, and we get right into it. And I can't take any credit for that, except for a couple random ideas that I've thrown out, but it all gets run and brought to life by somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know that people casually paying attention are aware, but Adam Holbrook is constantly providing, constantly contributing to this community, you know, in quieter ways, behind the scenes.
And he just doesn't stop. Like, he builds something, he gets something running, and he's immediately thinking about the next thing and working on the next thing.
Yeah, I just got going in Fortress Oblivion, and then then you tell me that he was very involved in getting Dodgeball going as well, and then I'm talking to someone else, and they're telling me about some other thing, and it's one of Adam's. What? And it was not either of these things. It's something completely different.
Yep. Which is frustrating sometimes because being the creative genius and the one controlling everything, sometimes he gets distracted from Dodgeball, and I can't make things work without him there. But I mean, I really like, I don't know if you've ever played in Ep5 quickfire tournaments, but that was the only contribution I made. I said, hey, what if we did a Dodgeball version of these quickfire tournaments? And then that was it. I just left it, and he made it happen. But that's kind of one of my favorite things in Dodgeball now.
And to your point, you know, thematically, you guys nailed it. I was kind of still figuring it out during the practice week that you guys had with me, but now that I'm in it and I'm experiencing the highs and lows, I mean, your rules in determining a hit, a catch, bringing someone back, it is all very in line with what I think of as Dodgeball, and the differential, the numbers are, they feel right, they feel attainable. Do you want to give a quick rundown of just a real quick synopsis of what it is, how that works, or would you rather?
I mean, I can. It is quick.
Yeah.
It's essentially you play a Star Realms game to simulate a throw in Dodgeball. So you're playing on teams, 6v6, and you throw balls at the other team. The winner of the game always gets the ball, and then the differential they win by determines whether they have scored a hit and eliminated the person they threw at, or maybe the person they threw at caught the ball and can bring someone back on their team or eliminate somebody, or whether it's just a miss and depending on who won, recovered the ball. It's funny you mentioned this scores. I mean, that was part of the original testing with the format to make sure it worked. I think Morgan started with both of them being at 50, and then hits were really hard to come by and didn't feel like, and they being equal to catches, didn't feel right because catches are supposed to be a bigger swing. And then obviously we had to change some things about traditional dodgeball. In traditional dodgeball, you get a catch, you get to eliminate the person that threw at you and bring somebody back. But we're playing this game over a course of a week. And the time games finishes kind of matters. So we couldn't have that work. So in our game, you only get to choose one of those. But when we do actually run Dodgeball Lives, we play with the full-on catch rule where someone goes out and someone comes back in. And those are great.
And yeah, what is just so interesting and different about what I think of as traditional tournaments, I mean, yeah, this means that really this game is going to go live till everyone is on the bench, till one team is completely eliminated, which means we don't have a formal end time, but the back and forth that you will get sometimes, not on a schedule like traditional tournaments or PGL or something, but I'll just have days where me and someone might be tossing back and forth at each other, or one of us is throwing and just not quite getting the 30, so they just we keep at it, and it does create some interactions. I am really enjoying it. It's been I sort of joined because I'm just getting back into it. I wasn't really excited until the draft and seeing just the attention. You guys did such an amazing job on that draft. I don't know if that's. I know that it's probably past the where it's on Twitch. Did you get that uploaded anywhere? Is that somewhere where someone can check it out?
I'm pretty sure I downloaded it. I don't think I uploaded it. I did download it, so I have it. I haven't uploaded it to my YouTube yet, but it should go on there. I'm new at this content creation thing. I didn't host. I hosted season 4 and 5 drafts, but I didn't host any of the ones before it. So I'm still learning things.
Well, for those that didn't see it, we had Al in doing color commentary and background on the players. That was amazing. That was a big reason I'm having him on next week. He seemed really in his element there. He seemed like he was just owning that. That was great. You had all eight captains, right? No. Is it 8?
8, yes.
Captains right there live. You've seen the trouble I've had in coordinating just one guest at a time on my program. The fact that you guys had you, Al, all the captains, pretty outstanding.
Honestly, I gave up on the dream of having a live draft after season 1. I never thought we'd be able to. Well, we started with 6 teams and then we bumped up to 8, but I never thought we'd be able to get 6 or 8 people to sit in one place and all at the same time and make something work. And we've had a live draft every season so far. People are very generous with their contribution. Excuse me.
I'm not doing CPR on you. Or Heimlich, I guess it's Heimlich.
To making the event. I'm joking.
So Bryan completes ally.
Sorry, I'm just dying over here, choking.
So I'm trying to figure out, and I'll be curious as we go through Mega Hall and Classics as they come out. I feel like I mentioned your name after a series of really good games that you and I had. This would have been probably early 2017 or late 2016. Um, I want to say at the time you were around level 35.
Maybe. It was it was a long time ago.
Now you made an impression on me as a player right away. I mean, I thought, wow, I'm playing this guy a lot. He's got kind of a funny name, and we had just some slobber knockers. When when did I become on Brian's radar?
Well, I mean, I found the podcast and I'm almost at the same time I found the game, so I always knew who you were.
Do you
were
remember
always
when
a scary blob player?
Do you remember when I mentioned your name for the first time on the cast?
I don't remember. I know I won a Sunday casual and had runner up in a couple, like in a short period of time. So I know I got mentioned in those, and it might have just been around that same time. But no, I don't. I don't remember the timing of it.
It was definitely before you were in the group, right?
Maybe, but definitely before I was active in the group. I was in the group without posting for a long time.
I'm finding that to be the case for a lot of people. Because I feel like when I mentioned you, no one said, "Oh yeah, no, it's Bryan Mockin," is what they would have said at the time, and I still would have said that till you got clarified it at at Origins for me. And I'm sure we said it wrong on the cast a number of times.
Yeah, probably, definitely.
Yeah, those are kind of funny going back now. Referencing Al is the first time I referenced him, I said silent AI. I don't know.
I mean, it definitely looks like silent AI. I think he's got it wrong, really.
All right, so you have 2 missions completed already, huh?
Yeah, you're just trying to punch really hard though, and that makes me sad.
No, that's the weird thing. I'm not. I was actually buying those punchers to try to clear stuff out of the way. And this is interesting. Yeah, no, even in missions, if I can find a way to grab green punch, I'd rather knock stuff out of the road that way than incur it into my deck.
Oh, for sure.
So I do. Even if I'm not in, I'll just tell you flat out, this Ravager I'm holding, it has nothing to do with any of my missions. But you're right. If I need to pivot, if suddenly my damage curve simply overtakes my missions path, because that's what I bought, that's what we end up doing. I'm still thinking about discarding a Viper though versus a Scout just by habit. Oh no, I have to because I need to kill your base. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have to kill the base.
Found the second Rav anyway, and damage is not going to be a problem. Supernova.
Uh-oh. Damage could become a real problem for me now with these events. Luckily, no, even that's not going to help. I might just be lost now. I am, in fact, lost. All right. So you took a quick 2 to 1 lead against me here. Not excited about this.
Oh, I see. I got. Okay. Glorious Return is so ridiculous in missions.
It is. It's a good gambit, period. But in missions, especially, it's amazing. I often give Derek Aldurin a hard time because he's one of the people that, for gambits, likes to use them immediately. And so we're talking Glorious Return is only a trade. Gray Market is often only a trade.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like using them that way. I try to find different ways to make my gambits be worthwhile.
Yeah, and it's really opened my eyes because I too, and the rationale there was simply, if I'm going to use these powerful cheat cards to put something into my deck, if I do it early, I give it the most chance of occurring the most times this game. If I can make something happen, potentially even here during the first shuffle, I might get that hot card play 4 or 5 times. And so I understand it. But when you do start looking at the game from different angles, and I'm not going to just talk about missions here, but when you start getting into differential, there could be a number of contexts where you can look for good quality uses from your gambits in the mid to late game. They suddenly do take on a whole new identity and meaning, and things like Salvage Operation, things like Glorious Return, just become outright cheats. And I say that for missions, but that can be the case in other contexts as well.
For sure. And missions are definitely the biggest way this has affected me. But even just recently, I started to play almost no chaos formats. And because I feel like it's easy to get stuck in, for lack of a better term, a rut with the game where you're kind of on autopilot all the time. You're kind of doing the same things all the time. You value all the cards, like the way you value them has been the same for 2,000 games. And all of a sudden, if you just change things up a little bit, play something you don't necessarily like as much, play something different, now it may not be a direct thing that's always applicable, but it changes the way you think enough that you might see some opportunities that you wouldn't have normally.
Yeah, very, very much that has happened with me. Being when suddenly you are treating your mission completions more like secret gambits, because that's really what you have. I mean, if you're taking your mission seriously and you can anticipate the completion and how to exploit its reward, it feels more like you're just getting free. You're getting gambits. You have more gambits than you did normally.
Right.
Do you want to put this before it's gone? That honey one.
I kind of forget where I even was going with that. I have another question for you actually, because
Okay.
this is big. This is big.
Okay.
You're sitting on damage gambits. You are on the damagiest of the gambits. Now, for someone who is listening and goes, I don't know, I hear what you guys are saying, but what is Bryan gonna do now? Tell me going in without sharing your missions, whether are you considering letting him go and going for damage, or at this point are we so in camp 4 that you're still like, all right, I see these, I have been playing formats that don't necessarily have even gambits. Where tell us your thought process and how you sort of what you're going to aim for this game. Can you share that?
So for me to want to strictly damage rush this would require me to certainly have the monopolize mission, because while that is the most useless reward, that 10 healing moves the goal line just a little too far usually for the damage rush. right? When you're in this damage rush deck, you have to win basically at a certain moment. And if the game goes beyond that, you don't really have a chance. So oftentimes that's the first thing I look at. If I don't have Monopolize, I have to be very wary that they might. Diversify also becomes a very similar problem here. So, but I'm still going to take my first few turns with the idea that I'm going to find submissions, especially in this format, as we've talked about with Chaos. An event can often complete a mission for you. Now, usually you want to get them from your gambits because you have them already and you can control them. But that's how I'm going to start. I may, given the choice of, when I traditionally am playing missions games, if I'm choosing between multiple options that are both pieces, I will probably go for the one that gives more resources and then less on the damage side generally. But in this case, I might, like, let's say there is a Predator and a cargo pod out there, and I have Exterminate. Now I might take Predator instead of cargo pod because it gives me the ability to get to that damage line quicker. I don't know if any of that was anything but nonsense, but that's where I'm at.
No. So what it kind of carries us into is that in this line of thinking, where again Bryan has reiterated that he is sticking to, even with his gambits, and may pivot, but he is going in with the mindset that missions are still very, very important. And again, one of the things that he impressed upon me when we were talking about it one other time is that, yeah, if you're going hard on your missions, just completing one or two, especially first, before your opponent completes one, you get such a head start advantage bonus that it may be too much for your opponent to overcome. If you can complete that second one, man, that damage curve may just exceed your mission's path. One thing that is fun and exciting, and you talked about with seeing it as a whole different game, is we do have a skewed valuation, not just card to card, but faction to faction. Where as a traditionally damage race player, I was big on scrap and damage. Scrap, it's not that it's not helpful in missions, it still is. If my missions call for me to go into it, I'm happy. But really, the other way of getting through your deck quicker and going lots of draw is a little more advantageous in missions because you're better able to exploit draw on topping tricks, other ways that you can sort of in a pinch just get one done. And further, there are some just individual cards that suddenly become really good. I mean, and one that comes to mind is, say, Customs Frigate. Cards, and we talked in my other, on Wednesday nights sometimes, little small bases like the Silo, some of the smaller green ones, and we talked about Bacon. They just have such a tremendous value at their cost. If sometimes you're only looking to buy a card because its attributes are its color and its type of card, you can spend 2 or 3 and not have to spend 5, 6, 7, and effectively get the same bang for your buck if just trying to complete a mission.
And that's a big thing. Oftentimes now you can acquire multiple pieces for the same cost you were trying to invest in one card before, which is huge. Armada time?
No,
Oh, you don't have it.
I am going to secure both pieces of my Exterminate.
Ah, all right.
Can't. Ugh, now they got separated. That kind of sucks. That's okay. I'm gonna reshuffle anyway.
Right. You did miss a draw though because you just didn't have enough cards for the double quasar.
Yeah, yeah. uh, yeah. I don't think there's any. Oh, I didn't play a blue, did I?
Nope.
Oh yeah.
You don't even have a blue.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sometimes I actually can understand that because you did the hero, but like you get that diversify mission and healing is so blue that it feels like that just goes along with it. Obviously you were in blue because you got diversify.
So yeah, that's a good example. Where we're in damage race realms. I I think blue is my least favorite color, contrary to what people might think. Here in this context, again, I'm you can almost hold damage against a card from this angle. The fact that you're paying for a card and damage certainly is part of the makeup of the card, and if it's heavy, you're paying, that premium. Um, Damage is not as helpful here. Now we can't ignore it. If you can't take out your opponent's bases and they're playing their missions, bad news. But at the same time, that draw life gain sometimes might be what I need to buy me the 1 or 2 turns that I need to complete the missions. And again, I mean, that, like you had said, that one mission, that one monopolized completion for 10 might be, enough to keep someone out of range. If we're only talking about turns 14, 15, 16 of the game, yeah, that life gain is pretty important.
Right, that life gain is often too much to overcome. Just a straight rush. Because also, I mean, blue is going to be defense and healing to begin with. So they're getting more than just that 10 out of it. Their deck is all of a sudden being built around the idea of extending the game.
And again, it looks like I'm looking to damage out. I'm not.
Alrighty.
You're also having to focus a lot, which is fun for me. I played a crazy. Tatiana has been. She enjoyed the. I don't know if you had participated in any of the online Legends thing, but they were using a site called Battlefy. And so DG3 started running a couple tournaments on that site, sort of to get people used to reporting on it and getting around on it, which is another great thing about our community. People always want to do things to help everyone learn how to do things, get better at things. Besides me, of course. But as Stephanie just pointed out. But the last one he did was like a ridiculous format. It was like Colony Wars, both events, and both hero sets. And it's just all chaos all the time. Anyway, Tatiana sent me a game earlier, and I think we were both swinging for like 30 points a turn with 4 events triggering every turn, healing up a bunch, forcing a lot of discards. It was just the best kind of nonsense.
Yeah, I play a lot with Tatiana. Enjoying that. She's very, very good. And out of nowhere, I mean, I don't think anyone suspected she had the grind level that we do. Uh-oh. So this one appears to be on Bryan's side. Oh, I don't even know if he saw that hiccup.
Hello. Am I back?
Well, that was pretty quick at
Am I
least.
here?
My issues.
I told you it was only going to be like 5 seconds.
And yeah, you mentioned
just
Daryl Gessler, very active, positive as well, running things, and a darn good player.
He's aight.
As is Mrs. Gessler.
Oh, she's a beast. She is in her first Dodgeball season as well, and
Are you talking about Lady G3?
yes. Stephanie, she gets beat by her a lot, and she showed me a screenshot. So it was the screen showing your wins games, and it had she beat Juan Carlos, one Carles, who's an alright player, I guess. She beat me, who's an alright player. There was another known community player, and then the only loss on the screen, Lady G3. And then she went to the next screen, and it was the only loss, Lady G3. And there were a few of those like that. She's working on being the MVP of our Dodgeball team, though. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, in our practice run week game that you had me participate in, I was talking about that really nice dynamic of exchanging a throws or a series of throws with a player. Me and Daryl had a really great back and forth, and I think I got the better, and then it was a good 3 or 4 games, and then Lady G3 comes in. We have about the same, and she gets the better of me, and I think knocks me out. So yeah, no doubt there. I bet they have amazing face-to-face contests.
Yeah, he claims that that they're running close to 50-50, I think. And I actually don't believe that. I'm pretty sure he loses more than he wins.
About to lose over again.
This is what I love about Dodgeball, though, is more so than just the format and the playing, is that you're on a team, so you have some people to lean on. You losing a game isn't actually the end of your tournament, right? You join a tournament, you lose, you're out, and it's kind of sad for new players. They get discouraged a little bit, but in Dodgeball, losing doesn't necessarily mean you're out. You can lose games as long as it's under the differential, and even when you're out, someone can bring you back. And there's always this team chat and this team dynamic where people are cheering you on.
Yeah, I think for me initially that the chat was a lot at first, but as I've now experienced it and realized you can sort of manage how and when you need to be completely paying attention to the notifications and whatnot. But that team dynamic really has become enjoyable, and you appreciate players sometimes for their specialty skill in this context. I'll give an example of Tunislap. Tunislap has always been very, very good and hard to beat, but I didn't realize until getting in to Dodgeball. I see him drafted in the first row, in the first round. I go, okay, wow, that says a lot. But he is confident. He is competent. He understands exactly what's going on. And I see, Daryl DG3 is certainly our captain and our coach, but just being, and seeing how John deals with things, there are monsters specifically at what you guys have created, and it's fun to see, and it's fun to appreciate players in a whole new way.
Yeah, he is ridiculously good at these creating large differentials out of situations where it doesn't seem possible. And I love getting in a chat and meeting new people, like people that you don't normally talk to or have got to play games with. All of a sudden now you're in a chat and you get to learn about people and go through the ups and downs of a season. So it gives you something to bond over.
I agree with you 100%. And a chat is great. What has become interesting with our community is now you do find yourself in many ongoing chats.
You're you're not wrong.
And that can be a little much to manage. But you know what? I will say this. I mean, for a while, one of the things we heard kind of was, oh my God, I'm in all these events. I can't keep them straight. The chat does, it helps you do that. That's for sure. Well, I better figure out how to throw this last mission together or I'm going to run out of time. You have both two completed and you are now ahead of me in damage.
This is true. And as someone holding the ally mission, I happen to have heroes for many, many cards that I have to try and help fix some of these draws.
There you go. Very nice. Good game, sir.
I had to even it up a little bit. I was getting beat up.
So again, what I want to impress on people is this was Bryan's 7th turn. I know my first win was on turn 4. Do you remember about the last game? How long that took?
It was very fast.
Let's see.
I can't click the right buttons right now.
Turn 6. Turn 6. So again, what we're showing is turns 8, 12, and what did we say this last one was? It was turn 6, turn 5?
You had one on your fourth turn, one on your sixth turn.
And you just got
that
yours.
one was that was my sixth or seventh turn.
Okay. All of this again, so we're looking, damage will typically intervene on average. I know there's so much that can happen, but I'd say what do we typically see? Turns 18, 19, 20 in there, 17.
Yeah, you're definitely getting closer to the 20s.
What we're showing is that these are consistently possible before that. Okay, black hole, never fun. Quite first turn.
Never fun first turn. You know what else is not fun first turn is a comet. When you have to make that hard decision about passing scrap.
Yes. I'm still identifying that. But I think dropping 20% of your starters
is always good.
Is more important than buying that first piece of a mission. Now, if you're gonna complete one, if you're holding Armada, that's different.
Especially to me for Armada, that's a hard one to get generally.
Yes. Okay. We're going to actually let them both. No, we're going to let one go.
Oh, you had it with 3 scouts too?
Yeah.
that's especially rough. At least with the 2-1 start, you can give her to 1 usually without feeling bad about it.
Now, something I didn't ask last game when you had the veteran pilots. Early in making the decision on how the game might go, are you still likely to scrap them both, even having veteran pilots early?
In missions, yes.
Me too.
I am, as someone that definitely scraps more scouts than vipers, the caveat comes early on, like deck 1 early, because if I'm spending resources to get scrap, then I'm already a little behind on purchasing other things. So you usually have to get rid of vipers at that point. So if I have to buy a hero or something like that.
I don't have it here, but one interesting use for Glorious Return is waiting till your second turn and using it for a starter out of the discard pile in combination with another Gambit to complete the Armada.
Oh yes.
It's just another way to do it that you don't think about till you start really doing this and looking for those ways, those alternative ways. But that is one way where using it for a starter is a positive.
So you have played a handful of games at Star Realms, I think, in your career. 1 or 2. Do you ever, or I should say, did you ever? Because it's been a while since you've been on the grind. I know you've been recently. But did you ever kind of get into experimental modes previously where you would try new things, like maybe pick a strategy and try that for a little while and just see how it would go? Or were you kind of stuck in that autopilot?
I think I'm more likely to do that. In challenges or in face-to-face play with friends.
Because oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it is tougher in the queue. I mean, certainly will I experiment with individual cards? I mean, I'm going to have to now with the new Frontiers promos, but actual full-out formats saying I'm going to force some sort of strategy, I haven't done a whole lot, especially in ranked queue.
Forcing a whole strategy is obviously difficult. But so one of the things that I did for a while, and I've talked about this before, so some people have heard, is that I would look for any excuse possible to not kill a non-outpost base. And the reason was, obviously we get kind of on this autopilot where you just don't want to leave bases up. You know how strong they are, so you just kill bases and you move on. You kill bases and you move on. This is pre-missions, of course, back when I was still grinding in the level queue more often. And I just started to think, how many opportunities am I missing where I could put significant damage, because you're usually talking 4, 5, 6 points of damage through to the player, that I'm wasting on a base that I might not need to. So I wasn't always not killing the bases, but literally any excuse. If I could just come up with any valid reason to pass the base, I would leave it. And I played a lot of games with that, trying to nail down this kind of point where what makes these bases scary? What am I afraid of if this base stays out? Orbital platform. Do I care if they cycle a starter for another starter for a turn or 2? Is that really going to put me in a spot where I'm significantly behind.
No, it is interesting. You're right. I think we, from very early, before we have as much experience and nuance as we do now, we kind of tell new players, make sure you take out those non-outposts. But there is nuance. There are times, people will kill my star market even though I don't have any other bases or blue ships. I picked it up for that one purchase maybe. Maybe I'm still going to go into it, but that's an example. Yeah, there's no incentive to kill it. That's a big one. So obviously, yeah, you're talking race realms. I mean, one of the things we can talk about a few of the things that are different in the missions perspective. Leaving a base is way worse in missions.
Absolutely.
Leaving extraneous explorers in your deck, way worse in missions. Explorers are a real bad option in mission, and sometimes you have to go for them early. But if you cannot leave them in your deck, what are some other things that you can think of that really change valuation wise? Just some things that are different when we're seeking missions as, again, our primary win. It's not an alternative win condition anymore. Damage is the alternative win condition.
I think you spend a little more time thinking about better uses of heroes. A lot of times you can spend a hero early and get something really cool. But
Crap.
Oh no, what'd you do?
I forgot after I just said, go ahead.
I have to say though that assuming this works the way I intend it to, you're going to be a little sad that happened.
It's a lot of bases.
Because had I not had that green card in my discard to play it, I wouldn't have been able to pull the vent into hand. Anyway, considering when to use things is a big part of it. And then just, there's a lot of little cards. I mean, you talked about Customs Frigate earlier. That's a card that a lot of people think of, I'll buy it, it's a draw, whatever. I don't have to buy it, I'm not scared of it. I'm terrified of Customs Frigate in games with missions. Especially because that, the Unite mission, which is 3 ships from different factions, they don't have to be in play at the same time. So you're not punished for scrapping that card out to draw whatever you just put on top.
Yes, I think people think Customs Frigate and they think about the acquisition, but the fact that it has the draw as well makes it a real stud when going for missions.
It is. And the draw is you get to fire it off too. It's not an ally, it's you get to choose when and how it goes.
And kind of what happens is just that. You start to find value in cards that you might respect, but maybe didn't consider to be purchase worthy over your normal favorites. Suddenly, you start seeing cards and a little asterisk in your mind appears. That's right. That card can help me complete this mission, and this mission. And, again, things like Storage Silo and Trade Wheel, cards that I have outright bashed in the past, suddenly become pretty good options even early. And again, I kind of talked about this last night. It was pointed out that we were leaving a warning beacon on the row during a Race Realms game. I've always said I'm not going to pull a beacon unless it's not only going into play, but it's going to ally a trigger for me. Just getting that, I so hate drawing it. I don't want to put that into my deck. But again, once you get into missions, forget the fact that it may or may not complete one of yours. You have to take it just so it doesn't complete one of your opponents.
Yep. And then there's just little tactical plays like maybe you scrap out a card earlier than you would have because it's no longer part of your mission plan and it might get in the way. Maybe you don't play a base at the end of your deck cycle before you're going to shuffle because you need to pair it with another shipper base, and if it goes up and dies next turn, you're not going to see it for a whole deck. You know, there's just little things that they're not mind-blowing tricks. You know, if someone says it, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Well, I could have thought of that, but they're things you don't normally think about because they're kind of counterintuitive to what you want to do in the game.
You mentioned a really big one there. Something that I'll be honest, I watched Rick do the other night, and I have not thought that much about that, and that is ending turn with the base in play. I think people can generally understand the concept of deciding not to play, say, a survey ship and trigger the shuffle, an ending turn because you don't want to isolate what's in your discard pile into a new draw and all your good cards are in play. But being ending turn simply for just skipping play and getting that base or whatever it may be,
Like their back area.
into the next shuffle, that awareness again is it's a higher level awareness in general that will help you, but in particular you find the use during missions. Do you find you use end turn a lot more now?
Yeah. I mean, I won't say it comes up a ton, but and this is kind of what I mean by reaching outside your comfort zone for formats and how it can help you. It may not be directly applicable to a traditional format, but you're now aware of situations like this where it could be useful. You might see a play you wouldn't have normally seen because now you've done this in a different kind of format. So yes, I do it often because it's very frustrating in missions games when you seem to be just playing yo-yo with your bases and ships that need to be drawn together, and they just keep going back and forth opposite.
I'm in bad shape here. I cannot take out your post.
That's a good thing. I'm very happy about that. If it makes you feel better, it is still incredibly difficult for me to find a mission right now. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult.
So, stepping away for a second from Star Realms, yeah, you're back at work. You said you work at a brewery. I had confided that I'm not much of a beer guy. Odd, I grew up in Wisconsin, outside Milwaukee. I went to Oshkosh, very much known as a beer drinking school. But as of late, I am getting a little more open to the fruity sours, or just sours in general. And you said your brewery tends to really sort of focus on that concept. Is that correct?
That is very true. They are very highly sought after, and they do it very well. I very much enjoy the heavily fruited sours. I get worn out on them now because I'm around them so much more. Before, we would go out to places and seek out these beers because they were harder to find and we weren't exposed to them as much. But yes, that's what we do. I like to send pictures of our menu to people in various chats so they can see the strange combinations that that these guys cook up. We do pretty good on making traditional beers too.
I still can't kill your post.
One more turn and you'll be able to kill it though. Oh, maybe you'll get an event. That helps.
It actually does help.
It's very likely to help me get a mission, though.
I'm one
I just
short.
I just have to figure out which mission.
Well, this has been the most frustrating of our games on my side of it. Ugh. So yeah, the brewery thing. I mean, I know that it's popular everywhere. Here in Denver, though, we have a pretty good. There's a ton of them, and I,
Definitely.
again, as not really a beer guy, I don't typically go in for that reason, but just so happens that a lot of my favorite pinball spots happen to have, are at breweries, and so I am getting into a few more of them than I used to. Is Denver known for that at all around the brewery world, or is that just seem like it's big here now?
No, definitely. Denver, Colorado in general has some big time hotspots. The Great American Beer Fest, which is one of the biggest beer fests, gives out some of the most sought after awards. I didn't use my supply depot that turn. Speaking of mistakes,
Well, you are sitting on
I lost track of it in whatever mess is going on this side of the screen.
7 bases and 4 heroes.
You just buying bases?
I'm just buying bases and heroes, yeah. Yeah, so Great American Beer Fest is in Colorado. They give out the most recognized awards, the most well-known awards, at least in our country. So Colorado is definitely there on the craft beer map. We last year won a silver medal in the Scottish style ale category.
Scottish style.
Yep, a little malty. Think of it like a more a amber ale with a little more going on, a little sweeter, a little maltier, but still relatively easy to drink.
So you sound separate from professionally. You are a beer connoisseur.
Yes, which is kind of surprising because I didn't drink at all until mid to late 20s. So it definitely took a while for me to get into that. At some point, I don't know what happened. I just decided to dive right in. I guess this is a theme for things in my life. I dove right in and just started buying stuff. Stephanie signed me up for a Christmas one year. She gave me like a beer of the month club membership, and
Want some bad beer?
there was some bad beer in that. We didn't know at the time. We were novices, obviously, but we very much enjoyed going to breweries and just hanging out. And so, a popular vacation spot, we like to go to Asheville, North Carolina. Um, we obviously have a lot of good breweries in Florida that we go around to, but that's the first thing we look for when we're planning a trip somewhere. We search breweries near X.
Well, I know that Colorado might be overshadowed by some other things it's known for, but if you guys do ever make it out, obviously, please let me know.
Man, that is huge on the list. It's way up there. My buddy is in LA, so it's not that far for him to come meet us. He usually goes with us on whatever vacation we go on. But yeah, it's the basically the top of the list after going to see the Bax player and Sarah T.
Wow. Okay. That still puts us pretty high. That's good to know. It's good to know.
Yeah, I don't care about anyone else in the realms. It's only Bax. Bax is everything for me. And he doesn't even play Star Realms anymore.
Bax has been a huge, I've said it before, a huge inspiration as to why I am back up in streaming, while you and I are talking right now. I do hope to have Bax on at some point.
He'll definitely come on. He loves to talk.
And I owe Bax an apology when I sort of presented him with what I thought about doing on this show. I didn't word the text great, and I think he thought I was trying to bring him on like as a regular co-host to do this, and I'm sure he thought I was trying to put him in a weird spot. But yeah, no, I need to have him on. He has been, a huge inspiration, I think, for a lot of us. His enthusiasm, his jumping out on the stream things so early, and just drive to give content. Gotta love it.
Yeah, he has a couple of times disappeared from streaming, and this time when he came back, he was actually having a regular Star Realms contribution. He wasn't streaming Star Realms so much as he would record a game a day and upload it to YouTube with the commentary from that game. And he still is willing to host our Dodgeball lives and stuff. So, I mean, he's not anti-Star Realms or anything.
Right.
He's just got other things that are more important to him at the moment.
So I do have a confession. In talking there, autoplay took over, and the ability to buy the Moonworm when it has nothing to do with a single mission, I couldn't help myself. I just bought it.
Moonworm is one of my all-time favorite cards. It really is. I've never been a huge Mothership fan. Now, Mothership is an amazing card. I'm not trying to say it's not. It's 6 damage and a draw. And then eventually, at some point, you get a second draw when you're already deep in green and have plenty of damage and probably have won the game. But Moonworm just makes Mothership look like the silliest little card.
What?
It makes it look like pretty terrible.
So I'm riding a fine line here. I told Bryan, early when I approached him, whenever I have one half of a Star Realms couple, we always do want to give that opportunity to sort of meet the other. And Bryan told me Stephanie would not be available this evening, but she has been in the living room the whole time. And we're not going to pressure her by any means, but I just want to say, she too. I acknowledge that Bryan is very active with the group. Steph has also become very active and has become respected as a very tough opponent. And I think that needs to be said with her in the room, because I'm not saying that just from me. I have heard others refer to this.
Luckily, she can't hear you, so I don't have to walk back anything you said. Nope, I have headphones in. She can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Please tell her.
She was supposed to be working tonight and somehow managed to find a way to get called off work to be here to chirp in the background every once in a while.
Well, please do at least afterwards inform her of the comments, and that is community. That is what I'm feeling out as well.
I will make sure that I translate word for word and don't change any of it.
What? What did he say?
You and this diversify.
I
It
know.
is getting obnoxious.
I know.
It is funny. I think I made her play one time. Like, I tried to teach her vanilla Star Realms a long time ago. She was not interested. she's not that interested in games mostly anyway, but
Because I have to play with you.
she definitely was not into it at that moment. And so I kind of just, let it go for a little bit because obviously forcing it wasn't going to help anything.
Right.
But then I think she, after I got to, after Ola retired and gave me a chance to move past him, I think then she was kind of like, all right, maybe I should give this a try. And she finally started wanting to play like right before the Frontiers Kickstarter delivered, which was perfect because I was now expanding my collection of cards that I've never used and getting a nice storage box and everything for it with no hope to ever really use it. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she's like, okay, let's play this game a little bit. So we started playing, and she got the app and played like the core set a little bit. And then literally one night at the bar, we have our little local tap house is amazing. They have pretty much, they get beer from all over the place, and they get highly sought after beer. But that's going back to the craft beer obsession.
You're telling the story wrong.
All of a sudden, she, a few drinks into the night, has purchased everything the app has to offer in one go without having seen any of the cards.
One, that was at Arcane. That was not at Willard's. And two, the only reason I started playing the game was I got used to deck building because you sucked me in by playing Harry Potter.
It's true. I did. I don't know if you could hear her, but the Harry Potter Hogwarts battle game.
Cooperative deck building?
Yes. I purchased that game with the specific intention of convincing her to play these kinds of games and just ease her into the mechanic.
And I was done with school.
And so that actually ended up working. So she was willing to give it a shot.
So I do want to point out we are at midnight Eastern. Bryan has met his requirement in terms of the scheduled show. I gotta say, I mean,
Red and High Queen.
Even quicker.
I have Red. I have High Queen.
I'm so sorry.
No, we're good. We're good. That 2 hours went so fast. I'm happy to keep going, but at the same time, at some point, we will sort of set some sort of end. And real quickly, just want to thank you. We're not ending, but I want to thank you for being here and everyone that did stop in tonight, and anyone that does happen to find this on a replay later. Sounds like you're good to go for a little bit, Bryan?
Absolutely. I mean, I might have to take a second after this game to acquire another beverage.
Fair.
But other than that, I'm very much ready to go.
And I'm glad that we have gotten a little bit of stuff, in spite.
I'm just sad that she wasn't willing to don the dino suit for chat and make a special appearance.
Oh, I thought about it, but this is Matt's stream, not your stream.
She didn't want to upstage your stream, apparently.
She's giving you exclusive rights. I mean, I got to give her the credit there. That's fair. That's respectful of the Bry.
I'm going to be honest about this game, though, because same thing we were talking about before, how sometimes you get a little chatty and forget what you're doing. I kind of got lucky and completed the right mission that I was intending to for the mission I have completed. I could have easily accidentally completed a different mission that would not have been as advantageous.
So you said something a little bit ago I maybe I wasn't aware of. Is Ola retired or is Ola sort of dormant?
I mean, I don't think he officially came out and said, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth kind of thing. he hasn't been around.
It's true.
So I guess it's safe to say dormant would be more safe.
So Brian and I were chatting recently about that number one spot. We haven't really talked much about it. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. Holding that number one, what does it mean anything for you? Obviously, it's a lot of time.
Sure. It's not nothing. I didn't necessarily seek it. At some point, I was just playing a lot because that's what I do. I just kind of get stuck into things. And then it's rewarding to move up levels, obviously. And we were talking about the experimentation thing earlier. When they put in the level floor, I think it was between levels 70 and 80 for me that I wanted to see if it was possible to jump an entire level in one go. So essentially, queue up.
Hold on.
A few hundred games.
When you say one go, one play, one sitting.
So the app had a timer restriction. After an hour of not taking a turn, you couldn't queue another game. So I would have to queue a couple hundred games, all while playing them. And then I was trying to, this was before concessions were live, and even if your opponent conceded on their turn, it didn't register on your end until you took your turn. So I would get to lethal and just save that game while I'm on 0 out of 71. And try to accumulate 70 wins stored to cash them in at once to move to the next level.
Okay.
So it's dumb, right? It doesn't mean anything. The levels, we know they're kind of meaningless to begin with, but it was just the fun little thing of, is it possible to make this happen? Can I? Oh, this is getting crazy. I need an event to help me here. Ooh, or a hero.
You got some.
I got some. Anyway, so it was just more of a challenge than worried about what the implication of being at the level was, I had never actually got a whole one done in one shot. Like, I was never able to pull it off because it was just too hard to queue enough games and to play them fast enough, because then obviously you've only got the 48 hours before they time out. And it definitely didn't save any time, because by the time I got done getting through one of these runs, I didn't play for a week after that. So it was like 4 days of queuing, or 2 days of queuing, followed by, or 1 day of queuing, followed by 2 days of playing all these games, and then a day of trying to get these wins cashed in at the right time. And it was exhausting. And then I wouldn't play for a week. So I didn't actually gain any time on my leveling. But it was a fun experiment while it lasted. But anyway, all of this was way off track of, I wasn't seeking out the number one spot. I was still just doing things like that, just trying weird things, doing weird things. And eventually I got close enough. He slowed down enough, getting close to 100,
Good game.
that good game. I could see him. I felt like I could reach 100 around the same time. But he is so much better than me and faster than me that as I would get close, he would just be able to keep in front of me. So I didn't really race him to 100, but I kind of pushed him there a little quicker. And then once we both got to 100, he kind of slowed down playing, and I didn't. So it was sort of just a natural next thing that happened.
I mean, you are a player that understands what grind means. A lot of players grind, but you know, I can reference that with some players, and it means something different. Um,
It's true.
I think obviously one is a very cool and exclusive club. I think what is a little different about you is you are so far out ahead. And to me, that's inspiring that you still have that drive to continue, and it manifests, you know, obviously here in community and dodgeball, all of the other stuff. Am I gonna? Crap! I cannot get that dreadnought, can I?
Oh, you drew a Viper?
And you show no signs of slowing.
Certainly not on the gameplay count. I don't play 48-hour games that much, so I don't hit the grind anymore for the levels. We'll see what happens. I was, slowly building a lead over Darklighter, and I kind of got to 10 ahead, and I felt like that was the point where, I could see him creep up, and then I could kick it if I needed to. And he's gotten down under the 10 part, but it's going to be a little while. No matter what you do at this point, it's hard to net 120 wins or whatever to level. It takes a while. It's not fast unless you're Corey Bear, who seems to do it at an alarming rate.
So going through memory, and you and I were chatting a little bit about this. The number ones that we've referenced Demola, yourself, Matt M. Benjotron had it for a little bit. CR Shaner. Who am I missing? OZ Method had it, but it was actually before the leaderboard was a thing. OZ Method's sort of a long forgotten number one, but he was number one for a good period of time until Shaner overtook him.
See, I think when I started, I don't remember who number one was at the time. It was very close to the time that Benjotron went on his run where he just locked himself in a closet and played vanilla for, 23 and a half hours a day. And that's all he was focused on. But he seemed to disappear just as quick afterwards after he did it. So I don't know if that was his only goal and he was done with the game, or if it burnt him out, or what. But I mean, you'd still hit him occasionally in places, but he was not playing at anywhere close to the same kind of activity. And then of course Ola was just a monster, able to not only put in as many games as the heaviest players, but also do it while winning in the mid to high 60s consistently.
Does he still play?
Not that way. I mean, I don't know. Steph asked if he still played. He hasn't been active.
And the one that I was talking about that might have had it for 5 minutes before Matt M was bug batteries. I I don't know. I seem in my head to remember him having it for just a second, but my brain might be making that up. And I tried messaging Jeremy. I don't think he sees Messenger much. I was gonna message Matt M. I bet he knows, but I just didn't.
I know you're not looking at chat, but Rollenpaw did say that in August of 2019, at the end of PGL 7, Ola said he quit everything except that season of PGL, and then was essentially leaving after that.
Though not addressing chat, what's up, Phil? Philip got me last year.
I got information I had to share.
I appreciate it. God, what am I doing here with my missions?
I don't know, but entertain chat. I need to get a drink.
All right. Yeah, I would have liked to have confirmed that here for the cast if Bug Batteries might have had it just for a second. Such a good player. Still playing. They
can hear you, so yes.
I still queue with Bug Batteries all the time.
They would love to see you, actually.
All right. Cheating. Taking a look at chat. What's up, guys? Nice crowd tonight, everyone. Thank you so much. So we will take a second to just once again point out that next week we are going to have Al, Silent Al. During my first few years with the group, Al was Alex Sarkeesian and was known for the mentorship program and, of course, just being a nice guy. But I sort of come back to being active, and Al is just Al. Everyone knows Al as Al. And he is a little more credentialed than at that time. And we are going to have a great chat. Bryan and I are going to continue our great chat. And he's back.
I don't think Stephanie actually entertained y'all, did she?
Talking to Shannon, mind your business.
Were you in the draft stream at the beginning when Silent Al got introduced?
I caught the whole thing was actually on replay. Fortunately and unfortunately, I had Nathan and Missy here that weekend. Ozzy Method and Missy J, long time, very, very important community members. Nathan being George Smith, runner of. Interesting how that came about.
Wait, you're not George? Yeah, I need to hear about George.
So early on in the days, before we were using Challenge, we were trying to do pairings in Thread and tag everybody. And separate from there just being, issues with that, it took forever. At that point, we were starting to get 100 plus. I got nothing I can do with any of this. I'm staring at it, waiting for it to get better. So, I, having put the page up, seemed to be able to tag everybody. I didn't have to become someone's friend to tag them. Nathan, when he took over, was having a lot more trouble, and we needed that tag because it represented accountability. And if we were going to hold people to the time frames we were hoping for, it meant we needed to tag them so we could say, listen, we tagged you. This is how everyone gets their notifications. We expect you to be responsible. And Nathan, after a couple weeks of that, was like, this is crap. I can't do this. We need to have an account that friends everybody so it can easily tag people going forward, and I don't want to have to friend everybody in this community, which at the time was still, under a couple hundred, but it seemed like a lot of people to add in to your personal feed, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he created something called Tourney Runner that was clear that it was not a person, that it was a placeholder that was meant to collect friends and put up tournaments. And then Facebook decided they did not like the idea of accounts that were set up as a person who were clearly not a person. And they told him that for what he wanted to do with that, he needed to make it either a group or a page. And he's like, well, no. This needs to operate within a group or a page. So he just made the most generic looking person to be his Tourney Runner account. And that was the birth of George Smith.
Very nice. I think Ryan Hipasfist has run into problems with Facebook Messenger where he's like, for the stuff he organizes, like Quickfire, when he does that, he puts everyone in a chat, and so he's adding people to a chat that aren't his friends. So I think he's been like soft banned from Messenger a few times because of that. Just, it looks like he's spamming people to a chat.
Yeah, those early days trying to set up pairings in Facebook was rough. It was rough. Football starting and we're just frantically trying to tag 130 people. And yeah, Facebook even at the time, it limited you on the number of tags in a post. So we would end up having to do multiple posts. It was a nightmare. When he pushed go into challenge, initially I sort of had this, well, it's working, but once he sort of showed us what that was, the benefits that was going to bring, it was no contest. So once again, you're going to put up a base wall that I cannot compete with, and because I have been dirtling, making purchases that border around my missions but don't quite complete them, I do not have the damage to take out that wall, and it's going to be rough.
Isn't it fun to just get pieces without actually getting a whole mission put together? You just killed a base. You lied to me.
Yeah, but I'm leaving too. And that's the demoralizing part. If you
Not
see
right.
bases
Not right
complete a
when you
mission
complete a
and you
mission without
don't
your turn
kill them,
starting.
and then that turn comes back around and they get that mission before they do a single thing, it is demoralizing.
Look at all these events, though. This is great. Yes, it is. Actually, I played my Board Game Geek League game with Juan Carles, and he couldn't kill a bacon for a long time, and eventually did lose the game on. I did that poorly. Huh. Oh, okay, it doesn't matter. My bad play is still okay. He did the end turn game end, not even just like a mission in the middle. Like it ended the game.
Why didn't you buy Levi?
I'm working on it. She's yelling at me for not buying Leviathan yet.
There you
I
go.
should have enough damage now this turn, though, that even though I didn't come close to getting my final mission, I should at least end this game. I don't know why I took that card. All right, all right. Whew. We managed to find a way to
Good
put some damage.
game. So, does
How did I
that?
get so scrapped out that game? That was ridiculous.
So I got the first two. You
Anyway,
got the last three. Is that what happened?
I got the first one. Then you won two. Then I won
Did you get the first one?
four. Yeah. I'm just saying it's 5-2.
I don't. Why don't I remember you winning the first one for some reason?
I mean, I often forget that I can win games as well, so it's not surprising.
Well, Brian, I think. Is there anything else that you wanna bring up and talk about here yet tonight?
Um, I don't know if anyone that found this stream is unaware of what Dodgeball is, but you need to come play Dodgeball with us in the Star Realms Gymnasium because it's the best. So PM me on Twitch if you don't know what it is, and I will get you the link to it. And we run leagues and events in the middle of the league, and everything is fun. It can be a big commitment. It can be almost no commitment. You can kind of pick and choose how you want to play. That's the most important thing because I love Dodgeball. It's what I like most about Star Realms right now. So
I will say, as passionate as people are about tournaments in general, we saw very early that team-based events, that camaraderie and that those friends you gain, the whole experience, it it's so satisfying. Win or lose, I mean that's subjective, of course. Everybody, is going to be a little different there, but I look at some of the past teams. I mean that I've been on. That's how that you're right. Those chats, those teams, it is sort of how we solidify as a group. And we kind of talked about a couple weeks ago, I think with Dustin Klingman, that's what all sort of comes together. And when we do meet in person at conventions, we have all of that behind it, and you feel that connection with people as if you've had it for a while now. It's not.
it's crazy. I mean, to think about, and everyone has said it before, that how good this community is. That so few legitimate trolls. I mean, there's trolls like me that everyone knows is just having a little fun, but very few legitimate trolls. Like there's everyone really enjoys the game and playing with each other. Everyone wants to be involved in things. I mean, just look at how many different fan created events have existed for this whole time. I mean, different variants, different leagues, different tournaments, and it really is how you go from just casually playing a game a little bit to all of a sudden 44,000 games later, you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, I being that I did sort of take emphasis away a little bit. I'm not quite at 40 yet. We're at 32,980, and we're gonna hit a milestone here this weekend. We're gonna hit level 80. That's pretty exciting.
level, level 80 is something. I one of the things I shot for, and I don't remember, I think it was level 70 when it was still in the top 10. I don't remember now, but like just looking at the astronomical numbers on this leaderboard, 70 doesn't even get you in the top, not even the top 40. Like you can be 70 and outside the top 40. That's crazy.
Yeah, and the other thing that blows my mind is the number of players that I look at here towards the top of the list that I don't recognize at all. People that I haven't really played
Like,
much because they've either spent their time grinding in the real time queue, or they're just playing formats that are evading me.
Yeah, I mean the big ones were Corey Bear before they joined the community. Ionizer, I
Hmm.
don't know where this person came from, and they've recently been in the community. I saw they made a post after someone tagged them getting to level 100.
Yeah, it's funny
Camille,
how many
go
people,
ahead.
someone references them and they say, "Oh, I'm here. I'm actually here."
I mean, it's true. I joined the community and didn't do anything for a long time. I did eventually get into some of the casuals, but didn't ever post. I mean, didn't get involved in the discussions really. But then once you start and you start interacting with people, you're kind of stuck and you just do it.
And of course, always comparing myself up to where Darwin's at. Um, Darwin always, my favorite opponent to beat. We've always been fairly similar. We've climbed this ladder together pretty closely. Um,
I have an important question though.
yeah.
Why is your avatar what it is?
Why is my avatar what it is?
Yeah. Why did you choose that?
It's just what I have right now. I had been actually going with the cutter for a long time, but on this push that has been pretty fruitful. I mean, like we said, 3 levels in a month, up about 250. I felt emboldened, and I threw my old top 10 up there for a little while.
All right, all right. I just avatars are interesting. What makes I had the pirates avatar forever and never changed it until arena when command ship was a play 50 games or whatever avatar. And I was like, well, I feel like I paid for this thing. I might as well switch to command ship. And then the 99 level 99 was Leviathan, and somebody was like, well, only one other person has that, so you have to use it. I was like, okay. But then my favorite card, the Mega Mech, finally became an avatar. So that's what I get to rock now.
I do really
And
like having the cutter. It took them forever. I mean, for a core set card that is one of it's a lot of people's you know, it's up there. It's a top pick early. I'm surprised it took them forever to to make this available, and I can see you're wondering why don't you just always use it. It's fair. It's not one that a ton of people even have. What is going to be a dilemma is if my card pick ends up as a selectable, because some of them have already, they've made their way.
yeah, that's true. Are you gonna have yourself as an
I
avatar?
don't
That's
know.
weird.
It's so on the nose, right?
No, you can't do that, can you?
It's a weird dilemma to have. Obviously, total honor. What? So yeah, I didn't even notice. What are you're rocking? What are you rocking the Levi? Oh, there it goes. Oh yeah, no, that mech. Okay. Well, we'll see if Bryan's able to make it back. If not, I guess we can wrap it. But we'll give him a minute or so here to hopefully. So this is showing still green on OBS. So I do think this is on Bryan's side. And it looks like we lost him. So let's see what happens if we call him back. Well, it feels disrespectful to wrap the show without him. So we'll kind of start still hanging in, obviously has hung around for 2.5. So I guess I don't think anyone's going to be upset if we give him another couple minutes here. Nope. All right, well, Brian's saying it's dead, so we're going to wrap it. I want to thank everybody who stopped in tonight live. I want to thank everybody who finds this on replay. We will get all of these to YouTube, where I think we will find a long-term audience. I want to very much thank Bryan Machen for coming in and having an excellent discussion. I hope you guys feel the same. I hope everyone is enjoying this. I cannot believe we're heading into week 6. Week 6 will feature Silent Al, Alex Sarkeesian. Look forward to that next week, guys. Also, the Wednesday stream, that's where I do deal with challenges. I address all of you lovely people in chat. And until then, that's a wrap, guys. Have a good night.